The year is 1969. The world held its breath, watching a tiny craft hurtle towards the impossible. But what we saw on our screens was only part of the story. There were moments of sheer terror, brilliant improvisations, and secrets kept for decades. What truly happened in those critical minutes and hours on the lunar surface? The shadowy preparations. The initial stages of the moon landing project were shrouded in an atmosphere of intense secrecy. Behind the polished public image of national pride and scientific advancement, a different kind of work was happening. Teams of engineers and scientists, many working around the clock, wrestled with problems that had never been solved before. Their labs were often makeshift, their equipment jury-rigged, and the pressure to succeed was immense. They operated under strict security protocols, with much of their research classified. This wasn't just about building a rocket, it was about pushing the very boundaries of human capability. Consider the sheer audacity of the undertaking. No one had ever sent humans beyond Earth's orbit, let alone to another celestial body. Every component, from the smallest bolt to the most complex computer system, had to be meticulously designed and tested. Failures were not an option, yet they were an ever-present risk. Many nights were spent poring over blueprints, running simulations on early computers that now seem laughably primitive, and debating potential catastrophic scenarios. The public saw the triumphant launches, but they were unaware of the countless hours of painstaking, often nerve-wracking, preparation that preceded them. The selection and training of the astronauts themselves were also part of these shadowed preparations. These were not just pilots, they were chosen for their resilience, intelligence, and ability to remain calm under unimaginable stress. Their training involved everything from survival exercises in remote wilderness to hours spent in centrifuges simulating the forces of launch and re-entry. They practiced with simulators that were crude by today's standards, but which represented the cutting edge of technology at the time. The psychological toll of such a mission was also a significant consideration, with rigorous evaluations designed to ensure they could handle the isolation and immense responsibility. Even the very idea of a lunar landing was a closely guarded secret for a period. While the space race was public knowledge, the specific, ambitious goal of reaching the moon was not immediately announced. This allowed for a concentrated effort, free from the constant scrutiny that would have accompanied such a bold declaration from the outset. The world watched the milestones, the Mercury and Gemini programs, but the true magnitude of what was being planned remained largely hidden until the mission was well underway. What were the biggest fears these early pioneers faced that we rarely hear about? The unseen heroes. Beyond the 3 astronauts whose faces we know so well, a vast army of brilliant minds worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Think of the thousands of engineers and technicians. Many spent years, even decades, perfecting every single component. They were the ones calculating trajectories, designing life support systems, and ensuring every wire was connected just right. Their dedication meant that when the Eagle landed, it wasn't just a triumph for Armstrong and Aldrin, but for an entire nation's workforce. Consider Margaret Hamilton. She led the team that developed the onboard flight software. Her work was so crucial that her code essentially taught the computer how to handle unexpected situations, like when alarms blared during the lunar descent. Without her innovative approach to software engineering, the mission could have faced disaster. Her contribution was so significant that she's often called the mother of software engineering. Then there were the countless individuals in mission control. These weren't just the famous faces on camera. They were the analysts, the communicators, the problem solvers, working in shifts around the clock. They monitored every vital sign of the spacecraft and the astronauts, ready to diagnose and fix any issue that arose, no matter how small. Their quiet vigilance ensured the safety of the crew and the success of the mission. These were the people who stayed calm under immense pressure, making split-second decisions that had global consequences. What about the women who worked as computers at NASA? Before modern machines, human computers performed complex calculations by hand. These women, many of them mathematicians, were essential in charting the course to the moon. Their meticulous calculations formed the very backbone of the mission's navigation. Their stories are often overlooked, but their contributions were absolutely vital. Who else do you think played a role we rarely hear about? The moment of truth. The silence in Mission Control was deafening. Every eye was glued to the flickering screens, hands hovering over consoles. Decades of work, billions of dollars, and the hopes of an entire planet rested on this single, terrifying descent. Neil Armstrong's voice, calm despite the immense pressure, crackled through the comms. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. A collective breath was released, a wave of relief washing over the room. But the landing was far from the end of the tension. The lunar module, the Eagle, had touched down with only seconds of fuel remaining. It was a hair's breadth escape. Dust swirled outside the small windows, obscuring the view and raising concerns about the uneven terrain. The astronauts were not just landing, they were navigating an alien world with limited visibility and precious little margin for error. Every dial, every reading, every word spoken was scrutinized with an intensity that could be felt physically. Then came the moment the world had waited for. The hatch opened. Slowly, deliberately, a figure emerged. Clad in a bulky white suit, he descended the ladder. The grainy black and white images broadcast back to Earth were imperfect, yet captivating. As his boot touched the lunar surface, a simple sentence echoed across the vastness of space, forever etched into human history. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It was a triumph of ingenuity, courage, and the unyielding human drive to explore. The astronauts then had to perform a series of critical tasks, from collecting samples to deploying scientific instruments. They were operating in a vacuum, under extreme temperatures, and with the constant awareness that their lifeline to home was a fragile craft sitting on an airless world. The success of the mission wasn't just about getting there, it was about surviving, working, and returning safely. How did the sheer isolation of the moon affect their perception of Earth? The world watches. Across the globe, a hushed anticipation gripped billions. From bustling city squares to remote villages, eyes turned upwards, towards the silent, silver orb hanging in the night sky. Television screens, still a marvel for many, flickered to life in homes, bars, and community centers, carrying the grainy images and crackling voices from 250,000 miles away. Radio waves, the invisible messengers, reached into places where electricity hadn't yet touched, connecting humanity in a shared moment of awe. In living rooms, families huddled together, their faces illuminated by the cathode ray tube. Children, wide-eyed with wonder, pointed at the blurry figures moving on the moon's surface. Adults held their breath, a collective exhale waiting to be released. The sheer scale of the event was unprecedented. It wasn't just a national triumph, it was a human achievement, broadcast in real time to an audience that spanned continents and cultures. Newsstands plastered headlines, but the true story unfolded on screens and through speakers, a shared narrative unfolding as history was made. Think of the sheer volume of people tuning in. Estimates suggest over 500 million individuals, a staggering number for the time, were glued to their sets and radios. This was more than just entertainment, it was a profound, unifying experience. It transcended political divides and geographical barriers. For those few hours, the world was united in its fascination, its hope, and its shared disbelief. The grainy images of Neil Armstrong stepping onto the lunar dust were etched into the collective memory of a generation, a testament to what humanity could achieve when it dared to dream big. The moon, once a distant, mystical object of folklore and scientific curiosity, was suddenly within reach, a tangible destination. Every crackle of static, every whispered word from Mission Control, every ghostly image transmitted back to Earth amplified the sense of shared destiny. It was a moment where the impossible became possible, witnessed by an unprecedented global audience. What did that shared gaze towards the moon truly signify for the future of exploration? They walked on the moon, a giant leap for humankind, but the story doesn't end there. From the silent whispers of lunar dust to the incredible minds that made it possible, we've only scratched the surface. What truly happened in those final moments before liftoff, and what secrets might the moon still hold? Join us next time as we explore the hidden dangers and astonishing discoveries that followed that historic first landing. What do you think they found on the far side of the moon?